all the hardworking eBay sellers out there. Thanks for tuning in and making this podcast part of your week. Today's date is February 8th, 2023, and this is episode number 99. Today we have a mystery guest because we are going to freak out her family. She told me they are regular listeners and they don't know she is coming on the podcast. Quick announcement. Okay, you guys win. No more cash register sound effects. Apparently, the sound freaks people out and listeners think it is their eBay app, ka-ching, and you think you have a sale. But no, it is a sound effect on the podcast. So starting today with this episode, I will use a different sound. I don't want to be the source of your disappointment when you look at your phone and there is no sale. And I don't want you to stop listening to my podcast because the sound is misleading and or annoying. So going forward, we won't have that cash register sound. Okay, and now for the chat about eBay with our mystery guest, who is Carletta in Texas. And here is a big shout out to her daughter, Darcy, who is only 12 years old. So, Darcy, your mom told me that you help her with her eBay business, and we wanted to surprise you by recognizing you and your very young age. I want to commend you, Darcy, for taking an interest in eBay and learning about it now. I can tell you are very mature for your age. So just know that reselling is a skill that you can use for the rest of your life. You can put eBay on the back burner when you need to and return to it when you want to or have time or just need extra money. So I'm really proud of you, Darcy, for taking an interest in reselling, and I appreciate you listening to my podcasts. So keep up the great work. Okay, now let's get into the chat with Carletta.
Hello, eBay sellers. Today we have Carletta with us. And where are you located?
I'm in Northeast Texas, a little town of Detroit, Texas. Population is around 700, so just a little small.
Okay, and what big city would that be near?
Well, we're about 2 hours from Dallas.
Oh,
so that would
okay.
be our big, that would be the big.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll get into where you go to find your stuff later.
Right.
I kind of try to do this in like chronological order. So
Okay.
First question is, how did you get started selling on eBay?
Well, I think it's in my blood a bit. I remember as a child going with my grandparents, to antiques. They loved antiques and going to antique stores with them. And then, and my mom is, she has an antique booth.
Okay.
And so, I've always been around that kind of thing but I started on eBay in 2020, and I had been selling on Etsy, just things that I made, little girls' dresses and baby items, things like that. And I got acquainted, or somebody told me about this lady in a town near here, Mount Vernon, Texas, and she takes she's a consignment seller, but she has a very she does mid-century modern items. That's
Okay.
all she has in her little store. And I've always loved that era of things. And so when I was in thrift stores or wherever, I would always, see these items. And I started buying them and taking them to her. And then, she sold them on consignment. So that was a lot of fun. And just eventually, I don't know, came around to eBay. I have an aunt that sells on eBay. She mostly sells books. But I thought, well, if she can do it, and I'm already selling on Etsy, surely I can do this too. So I just, started listing things, and yeah, I really enjoy it.
So do you sell on Etsy still?
No, I quit that. I kind of switched my Etsy store to these instead of homemade things to more things that I was finding, vintage items. And then I just, I was selling mostly on eBay, and so I just closed the Etsy store and just focused on eBay.
Are you an accomplished seamstress?
Well, maybe. I mean, I sew a lot. I sew my clothes. I have 4 girls.
Oh, okay.
So, I sew not all their clothing, but quite a bit of their clothing. So
you're more accomplished than the average person.
Maybe.
I know there's all levels of.
There's all.
I went through a Martha Stewart phase back when, before my kids were born, like in the 90s. That was just a skill I wanted to learn. Mm-hmm. And I messed around with it for a few years, and then I decided I just didn't like it. Yeah. I wasn't real good at it. It didn't come naturally. Yes. I felt like I took more things apart than I finished. Like, you got to rip that seam out and start over because it's crooked, and So I admire anybody who can actually sew clothing, because that's not easy. I mean, it has to fit and has to be symmetrical, and Halloween costumes and crafts are one thing, but actual clothing that you wear is completely different.
And I go through stages. When my first 2 girls were quite small, I went through the stage of sewing, very detailed, intricate cute little girls' clothes. And then I've gone through my quilt stage where I was really into quilts, and different stages. But now it's, eBay is my passion. And so
with 4 kids, that's what you do with your spare time, if you have any, right? How old are your daughters?
Well, my oldest is 12 and the youngest is 3.
Okay. So you've got some big enough to help with some things.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
That's good. That's good when they get big enough to vacuum and sweep the kitchen floor, right. Fold laundry.
Right.
Okay, great. So now you're full-time, well, not full-time eBay, but that's the only place you sell. And I did Etsy too for a while, like way back when it first started. And it's just hard to get traction on that site.
Yeah, it is. I don't know. To me, eBay it's probably the easiest to get, to sell. I have things cross-posted on Mercari, mm-hmm. and also on Poshmark, which Poshmark I don't love. That you really have to work for sales on there, I feel like.
Yeah, it's a lot of extra time with, what is it called? The favoriting, or
you share your closet, and you have to share it constantly to get anywhere and follow all these people. And it's not. Yeah. I have some things on there. I got a bunch of clothing, and I thought, well, I'll try this on Poshmark, and you really have to work for it.
Yeah, I've never done it just because I have enough to do, and
right.
This will be my 20th year on eBay. So it's kind of like, that's what I know. And I've seen all the changes. And back to Etsy, I believe there's been changes recently that make things more difficult.
Yeah, I haven't really kept up with it.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, all these resale sites constantly change. So it's just like you have to pick the lesser evil of what you want to deal with.
Yes.
Okay. Well, what kind of things do you sell?
Well, I sell all kinds of things. I have, a lot of different categories. It was interesting. I look back, of course, I started in 2020, and I look back the first year the highest category that I sold in was crafts and fabric. And then the next year it was collectibles, I think. And then last year it was crafts and fabric again was the highest where most of my sales had been. So
Oh, really? Okay.
I didn't really realize that. I've sold quite a bit of fabric, vintage fabric mostly.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. I probably focus on vintage items. That's what I enjoy the most, but I'll sell almost anything,
That's good. I like everything sellers because there's just so many opportunities. And back to you starting in 2020, did that have anything to do with the pandemic?
No, I started right before that.
Oh, okay.
But I think it was a good year to start. I mean, I think eBay there was maybe not, but I think it was because of the pandemic, maybe more sales than maybe not. I don't know.
Well, I looked back at my numbers. I keep my numbers forever. And I was looking at like, what was my highest month ever? And just looking, I put it all in a spreadsheet so I could see like a chart of the sales,
Right.
spikes and, peaks and valleys, whatever you want to call it. And summer of 2020 was one of my biggest sale periods on eBay. And I think it was because when everything opened back up, at least when I was in Georgia, people were ready to get back out and get outside, and you couldn't try on clothes in the stores, and some of them are still like that. And I sold a lot of athletic wear and casual clothes and pajama pants, for those Zoom calls where it doesn't matter or on the bottom. And just like everything was selling. And when I say everything opened back up, just meaning restaurants and, you could get out again, but a lot of the stores had such strict rules about trying on clothing that, people just figured I'll just order it online. If it doesn't fit, I'll return it. And that became the standard. So, and then things kind of settled out and sales dropped again. So it was like, everything's an opportunity if you can figure out what to sell during those times. And you do have to be able to shift your focus when things don't work anymore, okay, well, now what is working? So I've seen you post a lot on the group, different things. So did you make notes of that?
I've some, it's hard. It's hard to remember. Like I've sold 2,000 items, but what?
Right. So do you want to talk about some of your memorable sales?
Well, one that I always go back to was when I found the Big E Levi's.
Oh, you did.
At Goodwill, of all places.
Oh my gosh, let's hear that story.
And I knew about Big E Levi's, but I was in Goodwill. There was a rack of jeans. They hadn't put them out yet. They were just kind of still on the rack, sitting there kind of towards the front. But this one pair of jeans caught my eye. They just looked different. So I picked them up and looked at them. And I didn't, in the store, I didn't even think to look at the tag for the Big E. But what I looked at was inside at the seam, and realized it had like the selvage edge on the inside seam. And I realized they were old. And so I said, well, I'll get these. And then went up to the counter with them, and they told me they were $16. And I almost didn't get them because that was more than I was thinking that a pair of jeans would be at Goodwill. But then I thankfully went ahead and got them, because I thought, well, they're old. I know they're old. I'll still be able to sell them. And I don't think it was until I got home that I actually looked at the tag and realized what I actually had. And so then I did, went on the Levi's, was it on the Levi's site or somewhere? I looked, tried to look up, make sure that what I had was the real deal and not some knockoff or something.
Because there are fake, there's fake Big E stuff out there, and there are authentication sites for that because, they're very valuable, and if anything that's valuable is going to be faked.
Right. So I felt like I had done my research, but I also was very excited and impatient to get them listed. And so I listed them for $300, thinking that was a lot. Because with comps, the comps were kind of all over.
Right.
And I thought, for some reason, I thought that was a good price, but they sold immediately. But yes, they sold within 5 minutes, I think.
Oh my gosh, really?
Immediately after they sold, I started getting messages. Do you still have these? I'll pay you $700. I got another message. I'll pay $1,000 for these. And so I realized that I had kind of messed up. But I went ahead and I honored that sale. And, I don't know if I'll ever find another pair, but that was very exciting.
So did you find those, you found them in a thrift store, and near what city? Like, was it in a big city, or just was it out in the rural area?
Paris, Texas. That would be our bigger, shopping town. It's a town of about 24,000 population.
Okay.
And that's about 15 minutes from us.
Okay.
And that's probably where I would get, the thrift stores that I go to normally. There's several that I hit, but the Goodwill, I probably go once a week, I would say, just because, when I go get my groceries, I just go ahead and go there too and just see what they have.
I mean, sometimes your car just automatically goes there.
Yeah. I feel like mine does.
It knows where you're going. So I find it really hard not to stop in every time I pass one, but my mind goes back to, well, you have 25 things at home that aren't listed. So go home and list those, because those can be selling when you're out shopping for the next batch. And I don't know. I have this conversation with myself all the time because your time is limited. What do you want to do with your time? So I asked where you got them, because that's proof that these high dollar items can show up anywhere. You don't have to be in a big city. I think Austin is known for good thrifting, but I think their items are more expensive too.
Probably.
So, people think, oh, I'm not going to find what I want. I'm not going to find these big scores out in the boonies. And that is not true at all.
No, that's where I've found probably some of my better finds. There's just, the small little thrift stores in the middle of nowhere.
Well, and the benefit of that is maybe there aren't as many resellers around as there are in the bigger cities with, let's see, I think Atlanta has something like 6 million people in the metro area, which they keep expanding. There's a lot of counties in the metro area, but it's just, things can show up anywhere. So as a newer seller, you have experienced that, which is great news, because that probably motivated you to keep going.
Sometimes I check the jeans at Goodwill, but for the most part, I feel like they're probably going to be picked over. But, that proves that you never know.
Right.
You never know when you'll find something.
Well, what else have you found? You said you found some other big scores in your rural-ish area.
Well, one thing that I sold just last week, a couple of days ago, was a t-shirt, and that came, I go to some estate auctions. One I went to just before Thanksgiving. It was actually the first one that I had gone to by myself and bid. My mom goes to a lot of estate auctions, and she's tried to get me to go, and I just haven't been sure. I would like to go and see something I want and be able to buy it and not wait around and compete for it.
Right.
Have to wait and
point.
bid on it and maybe get it and maybe not.
Yeah.
So what I've done in the past is I'll go preview the auctions with her and then say, get this for me if you can, or this, tell her what I'm interested in, and then she'll get it if she can. But on this day, there was 2 auctions the same day, and there was a bigger one that she wanted to go to. So I went to this one, me and my crew of girls, and it was actually a lot of fun. It was kind of a small auction, and there was nobody else there that was wanting the same things I was. And so I was getting everything very, for a few dollars, a lot of things. And there was this box of t-shirts, older t-shirts. I got the box. It was a fairly big box. I got it for $5. And then, there was this t-shirt in there. It was a concert t-shirt, Rush. I don't know. It wasn't anything.
Yeah, that was like a heavy metal band of the 80s.
Yeah.
Heavy metal.
This was dated.
Hair.
This was dated 1993.
Okay.
It was a Rush concert t-shirt, and looked it up, and the comps were good. I listed it at $145.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it sold. A couple months later for full price. Sold overnight and going to a buyer in Japan. So.
Oh, wow. Look at you.
It was a lot of fun.
So yeah, those heavy metal 80s band t-shirts are, well, I mean, anything from the 80s, 90s is highly sought after, but my sister was more of a heavy metal music listener, and I was more like Barry Manilow and Christopher Cross and like all that mellow stuff. And
some of those, like those band t-shirts and things, that's something that I usually feel like is going to be snatched up, or, you're not going to find in the thrift store really. But like at this auction, there was nobody else there that cared anything about it, or maybe I hadn't even looked through the whole box. I just knew that there was some older t-shirts in there, and for $5, it would probably be worth getting.
Yeah, it definitely was. For selling it for $145. That's a great, you have some great stories for sort of a newer seller. Your house is very quiet for having 4 children.
Well, 3 of them are at school, and my husband took my 3-year-old, so.
Oh, nice.
I knew it wouldn't probably work to have her here.
So does your husband help you with your eBay?
He doesn't help necessarily, but he supports me. Mm-hmm. He's not, he makes comments every once in a while about feeling like he lives in a hoarder house, but but then he'll tell me if he sees a sale somewhere that I might not know about, or or things like that. So
so you can just say, all that stuff is going to be turned into money. So
yes.
How do you store your inventory?
Well, right now my sewing room kind of turned into the eBay room. But I'm running out of space in there. And I bought a shed last year.
Okay.
A little storage shed, and it's parked right outside the back door. So that's nice. But I haven't really been able to move into it yet. I want to get it climate controlled, insulated and climate controlled before I move too much stuff out there. But that will help a lot.
Yeah, a she shed. That's fun.
Yes. I set a goal for myself last year of getting to 1,000 listings.
Excellent.
Just to see if I liked it, or see if I would have more sales, or how it would be. So I got to 1,000 listings in August of last year.
Congratulations. That's a great milestone.
So with that comes yeah, you have to be able to store. So space started to become an issue, but yeah.
So you sell clothing and household items and vintage items and just whatever you can for a profit. And do you have a formula in your head of like, okay, if it costs $5, it has to sell for this? Or how do you make those decisions on what to buy?
I don't really have a formula. I mean, I don't spend very much per item. I would say most of my items don't cost more than $5.
Mm-hmm.
And in the thrift stores, I look most everything up.
Mm-hmm.
And just, I like to be able to make, well, like I really don't have a number in my head, but if I'm going to pay $5, I'd like for it to make probably at least $25, be able to sell at least for $25.
Right. Yeah.
But I do end up getting quite a few things in, from estate auctions or things where you have a whole lot of things,
Mm-hmm.
or, a box full of all the same thing, and then your cost is a lot lower.
Right. Or the estate sale method of one good thing in the box with all this other junk we want you to carry out.
Or, I like the estate sales where you make a pile and then they give you a price. And
right. They want to get rid of it.
Right.
Okay. What about your girls? Do they help you with your business?
They do. The older two, they each have a few things that that they've found, and I've helped them, showed them how to list them on my, in my eBay store. And my oldest daughter, she's even had a few things of hers that have sold. And so, that gets them hooked pretty fast.
Yep. And wait a few more years when they're teenagers and they want money.
Yes.
They'll be bringing all kinds of stuff to you. Like, Mom, can you sell this?
Yes.
These shoes don't fit. You can sell them and I get the money, right?
But I like to get them involved so that they don't groan and moan too bad when I want to go to, garage sales or.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, they can pick out things and get involved. I love that.
Yeah.
Teaching them at an early age, that I think it's very empowering to have your kids know how to do this, because of course my kids grew up around it, and my daughter still resells. She is constantly refining though, like trying to find things cheaper. And because in Georgia, the thrift store prices just keep going up and up, and it's ridiculous. It's like, I think the main clothing items like shirts and pants and whatever are up to $6.25 now. When I started 20 years ago, they were $4. That's a long time, but it's crazy, because if they raise the price on like all women's tops, like shirts, men's shirts, whatever, and they raise it a quarter, 25 cents. And let's say they sell 100,000 of those a day in the state of Georgia. I mean, that's an insane amount of money for doing nothing. Like, why do they need all that money?
Right.
Price your stuff lower and people will buy more and make your money on volume. I just don't understand this. I mean, it's across the board in all kinds of companies, just, like your, any kind of subscription, like every year they're like, oh, it's going up $5, or, like I had an Audible subscription and they raised the price, and, for audiobooks, and, it's just greed. So when I came to South Carolina and started shopping here, everything's so much cheaper. Like, I get so excited to get something for $1.
Yeah.
Because that's kind of hard. In Georgia, I think Goodwill still has Mondays where the color sale is $1. But a lot of Goodwills are doing away with that. And yeah, so you got to constantly watch your expenses. But I said all that to say that my daughter is turning 29 this month, and she's been reselling for 12 years and seen me do it her whole life. And so when she wants something like some new furniture or something like that, she hustles it. She's like, yeah, I guess I need to put more stuff on eBay and so I can pay for this. Or like she took a trip out to Arizona last year and paid for that. And just like, you can turn it on and off whenever you want. And when you need something, instead of being a person who just whines about, you don't have enough money and I want to buy this, but I can't afford it. I can't afford it as a mindset. Just hustle it a few more hours a week, list more stuff, and you can make as much money. Well, I don't want to say you can make as much as you want, but there's a point of diminishing returns. But if you put more time into it, you can make money for extra things. Yeah. So,
and there, there's some days when I'm just like, I'm going to see if I can get some sales today. And so, I'll list a lot or tweak listings that I already have, or, just kind of a challenge to see if I can see what I can make happen on eBay today.
So with 1,000 listings, do you have an average number that you sell every day?
I would say I average around 4 sales a day.
Okay.
I think yesterday I had 7 sales. So I felt like that was a pretty good day, but probably an average of 4.
Okay. And we are recording this in late January. Have you seen a January slowdown?
My sales have been pretty good, I feel like.
Good.
For January. I thought with 1,000 listings, I didn't, I think I do have more sales than I had at 500 listings.
Okay.
But I still think it largely depends on how active you are on the site. And if you're listing every day or nearly every day, I think that makes the biggest difference.
Yeah, there's been a lot of talk about the January slowdown and, people asking, is everyone else's sales slow? And it doesn't matter what another seller is experiencing. I mean, if you ask 1,000 sellers, you're going to get 1,000 answers because everybody's business is different. It depends on what you sell, how often you list. I know for me, if things are slow, and I get offers that are not optimal, I'll go ahead and take them just to restart that, the flow of sales, because there is a momentum. And if you're stuck for 2 or 3 days with no sales, obviously you can't make buyers buy things, but accepting some lower offers. I mean, I'm not talking about on $300 items to take a $10 offer. If you've got 40 on it and they offer 28, do it.
Right. Yeah.
And you paid $1 for it, just to get some momentum, because you can always get more items and, restart that listing cycle. But it's like when you haven't had sales and you get a buyer, it's like, oh yeah, let's make this this work.
Yeah, and sometimes you talk to them, you say, sure, you can have this for $5.
Yeah, sometimes it's worth it. Yeah.
Depending, I have a box full of their sunglasses, little plastic sunglasses still in the package, but they are like Newport. I think it's Newport, like the cigarette brand.
Okay.
And I think they were a free gift, like with a carton of cigarettes.
Okay.
Gift. Anyway, it was from an auction lot. I got this box and paid $5 for the box, I think. And it's quite a few pairs of sunglasses. I haven't counted even to see how many, but that's one thing that I'll take almost any offer on it, because I don't have, really any expense in it. And so it's a sale, and, I sell one every few weeks. I'll sell a pair of sunglasses, and some sell for $12, some sell for $7. And it's just one of those things where I'll take almost any offer I get on that.
That's a good bread and butter item. If you have multiples of something like that, you can just rely on that. Do you sell regular eyeglasses too?
I have some.
Okay.
I had one pair that I looked up the buyer, and they were going to a movie set or
Oh, fun.
a props, like an art department, or yeah. But they were an older, like a vintage pair.
Mm-hmm.
I've sold just a few. It's not something that I usually pick up.
Mm-hmm. I'm seeing less and less of them since COVID, and I don't know if it's a germ thing. This has been on somebody's face. I don't know, but I don't see them in as high a quantity as I used to. But that's something I never give up on, because they're usually $1.
Mm-hmm.
And I started selling eyeglasses, I think 2019. I got into that because I wanted to learn about that category. And I sold a pair the other day. Ted Baker was the brand. I've had them for 4 years. And they finally sold. And it was just, eventually somebody who had that pair is going to want them again, especially if they're, discontinued and they just love that style. They love that frame, and they can't get them anywhere else. So for $1, they don't take up any room. I have a little tub about the size of a loaf of bread with probably 40 pairs of glasses in there.
Right.
It's just I've already done the work. Eventually they always sell. So it's I think that was a record though I bought those when I first started selling eyeglasses, and I'm like, they finally sold.
Finally.
That renewed my faith that everything eventually sells. You just got to be patient.
Yes.
What's your favorite thing to sell?
One thing I really enjoy is selling photos, like vintage photos.
Okay.
I think just because they're kind of fun just to look through them and just to see some of the, the older styles and vehicles and things like that. And it's always kind of surprising too, in a way, that somebody would want somebody else's old photos, but they do sell. I've sold quite a few. My husband thinks that maybe it's people in the witness protection program that need, that need a new family. But I don't know. I'm not sure.
It's funny that you say that. I had some neighbors move in last week, and in the middle of the night.
Oh.
And they're moving in, and I'm like, was this witness protection? Why are they doing this in the middle of the night? It was very weird.
Right.
I don't know. Maybe they work full time and that was the only time they could do it. I don't know. But that is a great point. If you have to start a new life and you want some fake pictures put around your house so that when neighbors come over, you're like, yeah, that's my grandpa. Yeah, that's my aunt at Disneyland. So I'm guessing you get these at estate sales.
Yes, or auctions. Yeah.
Okay, right. Now, do you do them individually or lot them up, or how
Usually in lots.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll just do a big lot of photos.
Do you separate them based on time period, what's in the lot, or just dump them all together and go for it?
Yeah, I kind of try to, make the lot all either one time period or not portraits. I mean, they were small photos, but it was just more of the face.
Like the old school photos we used to have as kids.
Kind of. And it was just a big lot of that. And I don't know if it wasn't all the same person. It was, I think, several different people. And yeah, I think the buyer that bought those, it was all women. And the buyer, I looked up that buyer, and she was an artist, and she used photos like that in her art. I don't remember exactly how she used them, but that's why she bought them.
What's their real story? And here I am selling their picture.
I know.
Well, I know that the photos with something significant in the background, like Disney World or, Howard Johnson's motel from the 60s, all these interesting landmarks and, like you said, cars and the fashion and the hairstyles. And some people just love nostalgia, and they don't care about the people in the photos. They're looking at all the nostalgic stuff.
Yes. Yeah.
So, well, that's an interesting product to sell. I just have never come across anything like that, because mostly I do thrift stores, and probably not going to be in a thrift store, but that would be fun. I did sell some of my mom's old photos. She came to live with me right around the time I started eBay, recovering from hip surgery. So we kind of joined forces on that and started going through her stuff, because like, one day I'm going to have to do this. Right. Why don't we do it together right now? Right. So, there were some old photos of, like, 50s women sitting around the pool, and they were fun. And then she and my dad both went to University of Alabama. So she had her college yearbooks.
Oh,
which,
yeah.
Bear Bryant, was in those, and we sold those for some pretty good money, because, like,
believe it,
I have 3 siblings and nobody wanted her stuff. Yeah. So it was like, the buck stops here, we're going to take care of this. So it was interesting to see that. And of course, that was 20 years ago. So that whole genre of collecting has really exploded with everything that's available online, because, like, vintage photos, you can sell those on Etsy because they're vintage. There's all kind of, collecting sites on Facebook and all that stuff. So yeah, you just never know what you have. Have you ever found any handwritten things, like letters or recipes or anything like that?
I've sold recipes, a whole, a box full of handwritten recipe cards. I've sold that before. I think it sold around $45 for the.
Nice.
And I think like a baby book is another thing I've found. It was probably from the 40s.
Oh, wow.
And it was written in, and the pictures and everything. Somebody's baby book ended up I think I got it at a thrift store. I'm not sure. Sold that. I don't think I've ever sold letters necessarily, but, some scrapbooks. Things like that. I really enjoy selling those some of those things that a lot of people wouldn't even think of to sell. Why would somebody even want this? But selling some of those unusual items, that's a lot of fun.
I always go back to the Cracker Barrel restaurant and all the stuff they have on the wall. It's like,
they have to get it somewhere.
Maybe this is going to a Cracker Barrel, because it's all kind. They have framed letters and framed certificates of things, and like, just because they're old, and I don't know if they're real or not. I mean, they could be copies of things, but it's like, why would somebody want this rusty old hammer? I sold a rusty hammer one time, and it's just they've got to be a collector or using it for decor, and with the farmhouse decor, all that rusty stuff is highly sought after.
Yeah, you never know. Collectors they're an interesting group.
Yeah, they'll collect anything, like old medicine bottles and old it just doesn't matter. It's like nothing is off limits. When you're an eBay seller, like, somebody might want that.
Yeah, you never know.
Okay, let's talk about shipping. Do you ship complicated things?
I try not to, but sometimes I do. I sell some things for my mom. I take a percentage of it. She, like I said, she sells in the antique booth, but then there's also things that she'll look it up and she'll say, I think this would sell better on eBay. And she tends towards the breakables and things that I don't always enjoy shipping. But I think the worst thing I ever shipped, and it was also one of my biggest sales ever, It was this wall hanging, mid-century modern. It's called Birds in Flight.
Okay.
And it's brutalist art, I think they call it. It's metal. See if I can describe it. It was about 3 feet long.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like these metal spikes kind of in like the sunburst pattern.
Okay.
And it had these little brass birds on it. And it was a wall hanging. And that sold for about $400.
Really?
And to someone in Australia.
Okay.
And so shipping that thing was interesting. The little brass birds on there they were kind of flimsy. So
Mm-hmm.
I think I put foam around them and then all these metal spikes sticking out. I don't know. I know I used a lot of bubble wrap, a lot of cardboard. And I got it all. And I never heard good or bad. I never had any feedback on that. So I guess it made it to Australia. I guess I'll never know.
No news is good news on that.
Yes, that's what I figured. But that's probably the worst thing I've ever had to ship.
Yeah,
it was just big and awkward, and
it's layers with stuff. You just keep putting on more layers.
Yes.
But shipping it across the world like that, you always are a little bit anxious to hear that it arrived.
Yes.
And that it arrived intact.
Right.
That's a long way to go. Did you post that on the group?
I don't think I was on the group yet then. That sold in 2021, I believe.
Okay.
I don't think I was on the group yet.
Okay. I don't remember seeing that.
Yeah.
But look at you, a $300 sale, a $400 sale. What else you got that sold for a lot?
Fairly recently I sold a book. It was a vintage book on Halloween, and it was kind of more of a kid's book, I think, but it just explained the Halloween, the holiday,
Mm-hmm.
the history and things. But I would say it was probably from the 40s. I don't remember for sure. It was an older book, and it wasn't even in great condition, but I picked it up because I thought, well, this will probably sell, $30, $40. But I looked it up when I got home and it was selling for over $100. And I listed it at $129 and it sold full price, $129. So that was exciting.
And where did you find that?
That was just a very junky little independent thrift store. I mean, this place, it's about an hour from here, so I don't go often, but it's so packed with stuff that it's hard to even get around in there.
Mm-hmm.
But you just dig and then you make a pile and the lady gives you a price, and it's usually not very much, but
I love those. It's just a treasure hunt. It's like, an archaeological dig. Like, what am I going to find? Oh, I got to look under that. Oh, what's on the bottom? I've been looking on the bottom of shelves now because things get pushed back, or I feel like people are doing that on purpose. Like they're going to come back later and get it maybe, or, they're going to come back on senior day and get it with a discount, and people hide little things around, hoping nobody will find. I find people's stashes all the time, and I'm like, oh, finders keepers, losers weepers. Yeah. I found it. Thank you for picking all this stuff and putting it in a pile because I'm getting it now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is one of those.
Your card and buy it. Somebody like me is going to come along and find it.
This place is so crammed with things that I'm pretty sure the lady that runs it doesn't even know what all she has.
She's too concerned about getting stuff on the shelves, and like, so what? Like, how is she going to know all this and have time to get it all listed? It's her focus is on foot traffic in her store.
Right. Yeah. Another thing I found at that store that was one of those things that you think, why did anybody buy this? But it was a bottle of either fabric softener or laundry detergent. I can't remember which, but it looked like it was probably from the 80s.
Mhm.
You could, I could just tell by the look of the bottle. It was not, it was from a few years back.
It was not modern.
No, and it still had the stuff in it, but it was not a liquid anymore. It was solidified in the bottle. But I listed that, and it took a little while for it to sell, but I think that sold for $40, $42, something like that. And, I'm not really sure.
Do you remember what brand it was?
I don't right off. I can't remember, but yeah.
Did you dump out the cruddy stuff inside and just sell the bottle?
No, I left it in there because I don't know if it even would have dumped out. I'm not sure.
Oh, it was like hard as a rock.
And I just put in the listing that, it just described that it still had the product in there, but it was, this is
okay.
I don't remember how I described it, but made sure that the buyer knew this was not something they would be using for their laundry.
Right. It was just for the vintage properties of the container. Right. Yeah. Oh, that's probably one of the weirdest things I've ever heard.
Yeah, those things are, the things that some people would look at and say this is trash. And then you sell it on eBay for $40. That, to me, that's one of the funnest things to do.
I know. It's like, just don't throw anything away.
Yes. Check
everything. Yeah.
I went to an estate sale a couple of weeks ago. And outside the house, along one side of the house, was this huge pile of garbage bags, black garbage bags. And I just thought as I was walking up, that's where I wish I could look.
I know.
Is in those garbage bags, because I have a feeling that all the things I would like to have are probably in there. We probably deem them trash.
Yeah, but then you get into what else is in there that you don't want to touch or see or smell.
True.
Yeah. It's like, is this going to be full of treasures or dirty diapers?
Another thing that I've had a lot of fun selling is the vintage underwear, like the granny panties.
Yes.
And sometimes at estate sales, those will still be in the dresser drawers. And yeah, that's amazing what people will pay for some of those.
What's the highest price you've ever gotten for a pair of granny panties?
I think around $55. I think that, and I can't remember. I've sold the girdles too. Girdles sell really well.
Mm-hmm.
But that's just one of those items you tell people that, you sold these granny panties on eBay, and they just can't believe that somebody would buy that.
I sold a pair not long ago for $60, and they sold within a week or so. They were red, the Roomba panties with the ruffles on the back.
Oh yeah.
They were sharp. Like, is this going to be a costume, or does somebody collect these?
Mm-hmm.
But I think I paid 80 cents for them, and they sold for $60. And it's like, that's the perfect sale.
Yes.
Because it didn't cost you much, easy to list. Doesn't matter if they fit, they're vintage.
Right.
And easy to ship, doesn't take up any room. I wouldn't mind having 1,000 pairs of those.
Oh yeah. No, that would be great.
Yeah.
That's the thing. They don't cost much because it's something that most people deem worthless, I think.
Yeah, most people have no clue what those are worth.
No.
And even if they did, do they sell on eBay? Are they too intimidated to sell on eBay? Some people don't want to sell personal items like that.
Right. Yeah.
So we don't care though, right?
No, I mean, yeah.
Yeah, we're like that bridge between the garbage and the collector. We just help these items find their proper home.
Right.
Okay, well, we are getting to the end. The last question is, what is your favorite part of selling on eBay?
Well, I think it's that feeling you get when you look up comps and you realize that this item you have, is worth either a lot more than you thought it was going to be, or, just that excitement of finding finding treasure, I guess.
Yeah, like what's the next thing you're going to see?
Right.
It's almost like slot machines. It's like, okay, let's go again. Let's go again. It's going to be the next one. It's going to be the next one.
Or walking into a thrift store or into a sale. I mean, you just never know what's going to be in there that day and what you're going to find. And
yeah, I think it's just that unknown of, all right, let's get out there and see what we can find. And I mean, every single time I go out thrifting, I find stuff I've never heard of. I didn't know this sold for that much. You know, you can never know it all.
right.
And it's always changing. Like something that may not have been worth anything last year, all of a sudden, everybody wants it.
Yes.
You know? So I guess it never gets boring for me.
No, that's the thing. It's not boring because you never know what you'll find or yeah.
Well, I want to commend you on being a newer seller and all the success you've had because you really do a great job. I see you on the Money Making Mondays all the time. So I just want to commend you on your hard work and encourage you to keep going because you have it figured out.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I enjoy it, and I think that's the key. When you're having fun with something,
Yeah, when you love it, it's a whole different world.
Right.
I go back to when I was trying to learn the piano. My mom made me take piano lessons because she played. And so all us kids had to take lessons. And I mean, my brother got it, my sisters got it. I hated it.
Yeah.
I couldn't make sense of the music. I couldn't read the music. I mean, I love music. I love listening. I'm an appreciator of music. I just can't do it myself.
Yes.
And I wished I could have mastered that skill, but I didn't master it because I hated it. I didn't want to practice. I didn't like sitting there. I wanted to be outside playing with my friends. And I go back to that. So if you love something, you're going to want to do it and you're going to be more successful. And you get in that flow and just time passes and you look up and it's like, what? It's 2 hours later.
Right.
That means you're doing the right thing. If you get lost in it and you don't realize time is passing. So anyway, you're right. You have to love it.
Right.
Okay. Well, I'm going to let you go. Do you have big plans for shopping or listing or what are you doing for the rest of the day?
I'm not sure. We're actually supposed to have some snow later this afternoon.
Really?
Yeah, that's what they're calling for. So I don't think I'll get out today. I'll just
probably not a good idea.
I might go see if I can find something to list and
okay.
do that instead.
Well, the thrift stores will still be there. The estate
They will.
sales and the auctions will still be there later. Okay, well, thanks for making time to come on and we will look for you in the group.
Okay, well, thank you.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks so much, Carletta, for coming on the podcast. And Darcy, don't forget to tell your friends you're famous now. Okay, today's trivia question is, what is the origin of penny loafers? Why do those shoes have pennies in them? Here are a few seconds to think about it. And you get bonus points if you knew that song is Pennies from Heaven. Okay, on to the answer. There was a time before the debit card and ATM when cash payment required the correct dollars and cents. That time is now long gone, and the copper penny, which is now 97.5% zinc, literally costs more than it's worth. Back in the 1930s, the payphone in the phone booth cost 2 cents. The new loafer design allowed just enough space for a penny in each shoe, equaling the cost of an emergency phone call. Thus, the penny and the loafer were united. That's a fun story. And just a little nostalgia. Raise your hand if your mom always made you carry a dime or a quarter when it went up, so that you could make that emergency phone call from a payphone. That was part of my history in the 80s. And I'm not sure when the cost of a phone call went up to 25 cents, but I remember always having a dime with me just in case. Okay, next week we are celebrating my 100th episode. Very exciting milestone. My guest is Julie, who specializes in postcards, and she has her own YouTube channel sharing her knowledge. So make sure you tune in for that episode. Thanks again to all the listeners out there who make this podcast part of your week. And here's a bit of encouraging news. Only 34 days until we spring forward on March 12th. So I'm looking forward to longer, brighter, sunny days. Talk to y'all next week. Bye for now.